But in 1998, when I told Dr. Kenny Anthony, we gave you an overwhelming mandate to run this country, and you're not taking the country in the right direction. So I cannot continue to support your government as president of the Minibus Association at the time. And then, you know, that was my fallout with Dr. Anthony at the time. But nevertheless, when I said, if you're going to complain about something and not do anything about it, why complain? Let those who are doing it do it. So I believe that genuinely there are politicians in St. Lucia who really want the betterment of the people, who really want to see life improved. You see, Tim, if I could pick up everybody who's related to me, connected to me, everybody that I love, and go somewhere else that was better, I would not want to be in politics in St. Lucia. But while I can do it for myself, where does that leave the other people? Where does that leave my other brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, the people who have supported me throughout the 15 years I was elected? So because I'm in a comfortable position, forget about them. It's not my nature. It's not in me to do so. So while I cannot speak for everybody, there are many factors that influence people wanting to be in politics. Some of it is the power and the prestige. Some of it is just the recognition that comes with it. Some of it is just the perks.
But do you understand why some decent people, decent men and women, because of all what has transpired in St. Lucia, particularly over the last 2.5 years on both sides, why they will decide not to enter the political arena because it is so dirty?
I don't think it's over the last 2.5 years, Tim.
I'm just saying in particular.
Yeah, as far as I recall the politics, as a child growing up following Parliament on radio, at the time it was Radio St. Lucia, broadcasting the Parliament live, I've seen attacks on politicians. I mean, one of the persons I heard attack so many times was Sir John Compton. I grew up as a child hearing the actual amount of money that it was said he had in the Swiss bank. And as far as I know, when I interacted with Sir John didn't even have a Swiss bank account. Okay, but you are hearing he owned a whole block in New York City, only to find out that even when I came into politics in 2006 with Sir John, 2005, 2006, Sir John was still owing on his building in the boulevard. So I mean, the image that was portrayed, and I guess that's how we feel in politics, that we can get the better of the other person, is to make them look bad. Now, Tim, I'm one of the persons, I'm a hard hitter when it comes to politics. But I don't usually go after people on the basis of corruption. I go on people's ability and inabilities. So if I see you've not done anything successful in your life, why would I give you my country to run? If you represent a constituency for 10, 15 years, and I cannot see anything you have done for this constituency that is noteworthy, why would I give you a country to run? So I focus more on these things, that show me your track record of success. They'll tell me, well, what's your track? When I did my first job, I worked for 1 year. I worked for somebody. Afterwards, I said, guy, you're wasting your time working for people. I was about 18 years and I started paying myself a salary. And the next time I was paid a salary by somebody was when I became a minister of government. I didn't work for people. So at the end of the day, I know what it is to go out there and work hard, to make money, to pay myself and pay the workers who work for me. And I believe that there must be a standard for politicians, not because you're popular, not because, if you don't have 2 5 cents to rub together, how do we put you in charge of a country? To do what? So, not saying it's only those who have money who can make contributions, but there are different roles for different people to play in the process of governance. And my problem with where we are in St. Lucia, we vote people because of their nice words, their ability to speak, to say the right things. But if we check the track record, what is the track record of success? And if you cannot be success, if you cannot create success for yourself, I don't believe you can create success for me or for the country.
GPH versus DSH. The opposition wants the government to come clean in terms of what is in the agreement. But I don't think the United Workers' Party administration could have set the example with DSH.
Oh yeah, we did that thing.
But was it sufficient in terms of
Yes.
laying out everything? Because at some point in time there were individuals in the government saying that they were not too au fait with what was in the DSH agreement.
So we first had an MOU with DSH. And that MOU was on the table for more than 8 months negotiating. Okay? The arrangement with DSH is an arrangement that had many facets. The basic ones that was agreed to is what we moved along with. Basically, the horse racing track. So everything was done on a phased basis. So what Teoakim did was...
But was there a sufficient public consultation on this before the agreement was signed?
I don't think that you would ever get to the point where there's sufficient public consultation, or else your 5 years would go and you would do nothing. And I'm being very blunt and open about this. You would have a certain amount of discussion. DSH did not begin with the United Workers' Party. I'm sure you saw the letter.
But it ended with the
Yes.
UNP government.
And I agree. You remember Trim? Trim was the first person who came to me and introduced the idea of the horse racing track, and they had somebody. And then we met Teoakim and we discussed and we looked at, and we developed a master plan for Vieux Fort. A plan, Tim, it is interesting you brought up that question, and I have the fact sheet. I'd prepared that for me to go on what makes me mad this morning, because Stanley had indicated to me that we were going to be discussing DSH. So maybe
But what transpired? Because in the end, I don't think you made it.
No, it's not me that didn't make it. Yesterday I got a call, I got a message on my phone late last night informing me that they no longer wanted to discuss politics for this year on HTS, and that the program was cancelled or postponed. I couldn't tell which one. To be on the safe side, I called the studio. I called HTS this morning at 8:30. I got to speak to one of the secretaries, and they told me, well, they had been informed that the program. I said, but all yesterday, you all were discussing me and politics up to this morning, and I was the last caller on Stanley's program this morning. I asked him, why did you all bump me off the program? Because a number of people had called me, and they were telling me, but we heard on the program that something came up and you couldn't be on the program. So they thought that I was the one who pulled out of the program. But I wasn't the one who pulled out. I guess what I said in the Boulevard gave them cold feet team. But we had a framework agreement. Just permit me to read this one paragraph. A framework agreement is a general phrase for agreements between two parties that recognize that the parties have not come to a final agreement on all matters relevant to a relationship between them, but have come to agreement on enough matters to move forward with the relationship, with further details to be agreed in the future. The government of St. Lucia signed a framework agreement with Desert Star Holdings Limited for Pearl of the Caribbean at Vieux Fort in July of 2016. So once we saw the plans, because remember, these plans did not start with us. We saw the plans, we saw what they were looking at, we saw what they were proposing, we made some adjustments, we said we would like this, we would like that, if you're going to do this. So once we felt that there was sufficient information, we signed a framework agreement. And it was about 8 months later that we went into an actual agreement with DSH. So there was consultation at the time. There was engagement. I wouldn't say, I don't know what we would consider sufficient, because if somebody want to delay you, they can always tell you, boy, well, I have that concern, we need to clarify that, and you may spend your 5 years consulting and not move
But don't
forward.
you think that the people must have a greater say in such serious decisions that are taken in their name? Or is it a case where governments are saying that you have given me a mandate, you have elected me for 5 years, let me do as I wish on your behalf?
It should never be let me do as I wish on your behalf. I believe there is always need for consultation. There is always need for engagement. Tim, when I was building community centers, in fact, that's part of the World Bank requirement. You must have community meetings. You must invite them. You must present the drawings to them. They must see it. They must have the inputs. So even when you're doing roads and some, if you're repairing a road, that is something different. So there was engagement with DSH. I cannot tell you I was part of all of the engagements, because part of that did not fall under my portfolio. So what you is that the government engage persons who are going to be directly impacted, and all governments have a certain level of consultation. When I was president of the National Council, they said they had consultation with us on the was it the EPA, the Economic Partnership Agreement with the Europeans, and I said, no, you all are talking to us, that's not consultation. Because you engage me in one meeting, then that's your requirement for consultation. So we can differ on our idea of what consultation is, but I believe that the Pearl of the Caribbean, and let me give you my personal perspective. Anywhere you go in to do something, you need a catalyst to drive development. So if we look at Rodney Bay Marina, when the marina was dredged from being a mosquito-infested area and the causeway was built, that created a platform for the development of the north of the island. Rodney Bay got transformed. It did not happen overnight. It took a lot of years after, but it happened. Vieux Fort had been dormant despite having a deep water harbor and the international airport. These are the only things that we can really talk to in relation to the South. We had all those factories that minimum wage is what was being paid there. Not minimum, but minimal wage. And then we know what happened with the free trade areas of the Americas and how the jobs moved from there. So nothing has really happened in Vieux Fort. Agriculture was not pushing it. So at the end of the day, you needed a project that would be a catalyst, like bananas. And I've always said, bananas was a cash crop that allowed us to do a lot better in agriculture. So you planted citrus, you planted coconuts, you planted mangoes, you planted dashin, plantain, and everything. We have seen the demise of the banana industry, and because there's not a cash crop, you don't see the other sectors of agriculture doing as well as it ought to. So what I saw when I saw the plans for DSH, I said to the Prime Minister, Alan Shasney, if DSH does 10% of what they propose to do, Vieux Fort is going to take off. And Tim, you know how much I believe Vieux Fort was going to take off? I bought a piece of land in Vieux Fort. I've told you that before. Now the piece of land is just lying there. I ain't doing nothing. There's no incentive to invest anything there.
When you undertake such projects as a government, whether it's SLP or UWP, I think they suffer the same fate. Do you think that you are stymied very often, you're encumbered, impediments are put in your way because of people who have political motives, and therefore you can never move with such initiatives in a manner that is unhindered?
Yes, you always
And it
have.
happens to both sides, huh?
Both sides. You have the concerned citizens of Vieux Fort who march against DSH and all of that. I mean, it's their right. That's what a democracy is about. It's the democratic right to do so. But it's at to their own disadvantage, because right now we are hearing what is happening with the South. We are hearing, look at how long we've heard that you cannot do anything with the port in Vieux-Fort based on the agreement with GPH.
But the government has not addressed that particular aspect of
the government has neither confirmed nor denied.
Yeah.
So I believe silence is consent in this. If you keep silent on a matter, then I have reason to believe that there is some truth. It may not be exactly how it is said. There must be something in relation to the South that the government does not want the people of St. Lucia to know. Now, you know what Teo Hakim said to me? He said, the only thing I know about your government is if we sign an agreement at 4:30, by 4:31 it will be leaked. That is what the investor Teo Hakim said to us at a meeting at the landings. It was kind of embarrassing, because you're looking at your country and you sign agreements that are supposed to remain confidential and what. But at the end of the day, so said, so done.
But so far the GPH agreement has not been leaked.
It has eluded all of us, team.
What does that say about the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party? Do you think they have a better handle on information in terms of keeping it confidential?
I believe so. I believe they have a better handle on things, and that's how dictators operate. Dictators keep things under control.
But also you understand that there are certain things that you cannot divulge in such agreements. Or are you suggesting, going forward, that the nitty-gritty, every aspect of an agreement should be released to the public?
No, I don't. I know better than that, team. So don't think I will come, because I always tell people, I believe in being consistent. So there are framework agreements. There are agreements that you sign and it has a confidentiality clause where you cannot defend yourself. So I'll give you one example. Fresh Start has not been able to defend itself against all of the things that are said about it. You know why? Because if they breach the agreement that they sign, the government can use that as leverage not to pay them. So I understand that the government may have signed an agreement with GPH that has clauses in it that is confidential. But it cannot be that the rest of St. Lucia cannot know the general arrangement. So, for example, when we signed the arrangement with Teo Hakim, apart from what was leaked, we had discussed the issue of the horse racing track, the lease of the land for the period of time, the cost of leasing the land, all of that had been discussed. So at least people knew what the broad aspect of it is. As to the finer details, that because you have to protect your investor. But here we are. And let's make a comparison. We were using a piece of land that was dormant, not generating anything. We are now talking about our port of 2 ports of entry into St. Lucia, the Soufrière port and the Castries harbor, that we are now going into an agreement with a company to take over for 40 years. I believe that the people of St. Lucia ought to know what the broad aspects of this agreement is.
But hasn't this been done by the government?
No.
We know in the first instance for 30 years and possibly could be extended by
For
another
10 years.
right?
That's all we know, Tim. Do we know more than that?
Well, the cost of the project?
The cost of... They
cost
gave
of the
us
project?
a cost, but the cost is for what? Can we say the 40 or 45 million that is going to be spent?
Part of it, I think part of it is to clear SLASPA's loan, and then you have the others is to rehabilitate the ports and to take care of the vendors' arcade
So-
and infrastructure.
No. Tim, how much is going to Soufrière? How much is going to be spent in Port Castries? We don't know that. And it's a problem with this government. They took a loan of $201 million, and I don't know how Parliament was able to pass that. We found the details. So you put it for two projects, the stadium and St. Jude Hospital. Up to now, we don't know what the cost is to finish the stadium or to repair the stadium, and we don't know the final cost. By the Prime Minister's own admission, they don't have the final cost for St. Jude. Yet still you've taken a loan of $201 million. We are hearing that GPH is going to invest 40 or 45 million US between Port Castries and Port Soufrière. How much is going to be spent in Soufrière? How much is going to be spent in Castries? What are the improvements that we are going to get for the money that is spent? And what I want the people of St. Lucia to understand about this thing, if you have a lease for 40 years and you build these things for 40 years, you make full use of the lifetime value of these things, 40 years. So what GPH is building for the $40 million is not for us, is for themselves. At the end of the 40 years, these may become derelict buildings that they are handing over back to the government of St. Lucia. We don't know what the details of the agreement is. And you know what is interesting, Tim? You know GPH was up for sale as late as 2022. I have the document right here, you know, Tim. It says, the potential takeover Global Port Holding by MSC scrap. So in 2022, there were negotiations for MSC, one of the crews, one of the people doing cruise, but MSC does some cruise ship, but the bulk of their work is cargo. They were in negotiations with GPH to buy over GPH. You know who owns GPH? A Turkish billionaire is the one who owns, well, I don't know if he's millionaire or billionaire, but a Turkish businessman is the one who owns GPH. I was looking at GPH, and that's why I said, who did the research for us? I heard the bank is looking at loaning. They just did an assessment of GPH, and they said the probability of bankruptcy of Global Port Holdings PLC, this number represents the probability that GPH will face financial disaster in the next 24 months given its current fundamentals and market conditions.
Yeah, but that's being forecasted, yes, but certainly I'm sure that could change for the better. Anytime soon, it can change. Instead of looking at it only from a negative perspective, it can also change positively.
But Tim, if I'm going to sell my business or lease my business to somebody, you think I'm leasing business to somebody who's already in financial difficulties? The probability is between 0 and 1.
But we don't know whether the government did its due diligence as far as the financial position of GPH. Who knows, there could be more to this, and maybe they did ferret out information that puts GPH in a better standing than you are presenting right now.
It may be so, Tim, but I can tell you, you cannot disregard the past. Did they do the due diligence on Hyatt when they went and guaranteed cost overruns, and the country had to pay a $40 million for Frenwell that we were not owing? Did they do the due diligence on Grindberg when they went and leased the seabed to Grindberg, that we had to pay so many millions of dollars in lawyers' fees to try and get back control of our seabed? Did they do the due diligence on Beaupanel when they went and give the how many acres of land, 51% to a foreign company who never put a dollar in, and the government had to go back and pay $6 million to get back the land that was already the government's property. So we're not talking about a different set of persons, you know. So if I have a track record of these people, which to go, why would I think they've done sufficient due diligence? And you know, today I asked someone, if you had $100 today, Tim, how much would you lease that $100 for? If you are leasing $100 for me, how much would you lease it for?
And what was the response to the person that you presented this scenario to?
The person said that if I was leasing my $100 to you, I'd lease it for more than the $100, or else I would keep my $100. We are leasing $400 million minimum to GPH for $40 million.
What are the long-term implications when political parties, whether it's SLP or UWP, question, for example, the financial state of businesses that want to set up shop in St. Lucia through foreign direct investment, when we are causing them so much unease, causing them to be very suspicious, putting them in a situation where they end up being uncomfortable. Take, for example, Cabot, when they entered into that loan agreement with the NIC. Eventually, before it was time for them to repay the loan, they did go and settle with the NIC because of all was happening politically. Don't you fear that down the road, the unease and the wariness on the part of investors can have long-term implications for us in St. Lucia?
I believe so, Tim. But there are some foreign investors that I'd rather not have. If a foreign investor can come and take over Port Castries and Port Soufrière and only spend $40 million US and have a guaranteed revenue stream for 40 years, I'd rather not have that investor. And if that investor is going to borrow the money from local banks to further compound, so that's not any foreign direct investment. This is a man who came here with an empty briefcase. He, because of the complexion of his skin, they accommodated him and they gave him the best deal there is in St. Lucia. You would give a St. Lucian businessman, he would take on that deal because you can't go wrong with that.
But wasn't that the same argument that was being proposed at the time that Cabot wanted to set up in St. Lucia? That why not bring in a consortium of St. Lucian business people?
The lands had been sitting there for many years. Cabot went and bought the land. The land did not belong to St. Lucia. The land was in receivership with a bank. That is a big difference, Tim. If you had your house and your house is, you are not paying your loan, you went into financial difficulty, the bank took over. The one deciding who they sell into, not you. Whereas if you have your house, your loan is up to date and everything, but the bank is coming and tell you have a buyer there to buy you say, no, I don't want to sell my house. I'm not selling my house. So what happened with Cabot? These were lands not belonging to the government. These were lands that was it with the Raffles project or one of the projects that during the financial crisis, was it Singer Freelander or one of the banks that was financing it went under, and as a result, Tim, what ended up happening is the land was in receivership. The government could have purchased the land or somebody else. So somebody else ended up purchasing the land, and they were in the process of developing. So it is not the same as our ports. We own Port Castries and we own Port Soufrière. The country is the owner of these two. So, and these both ports have a dedicated revenue stream. Both well, Soufriere mostly from people who come in on the port, Castries, both through cargo and cruise tourism. Slasper is making money. Slasper has never defaulted on a loan. Slasper has never told the government, you have to pay the loan for us because we cannot meet our loan payments. So you are giving away a cash cow to an entity.
I think my producer is saying we're due to take calls, so let's see if we could have a call online. Good evening to you, Newsmaker on the air.
Yeah, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, Timothy, good evening.
Can you hear the call?
Yes, I can.
Well, I can't hear the call, Mr. Producer. But go ahead, caller.
Good evening. I am listening to your program. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing. So
Yes, go ahead, caller. I hope we could rectify the problem from my end as soon as possible, and then I'll be able to moderate. But go ahead.
I am listening to your program with a wise guy. Now, I've got a question for wise guy. If he can tell me if the 350 lots in Dairy Soul to the poor people, okay, that build their little homes on the land, did they ever got title? The 350 people of Dairy Soul, did they ever got title? That's number one.
Which, okay, you're asking
no,
which.
I don't want him to answer. No, I don't want him to
No, no.
answer. because
No,
you know
but
why?
if you're going to ask me a question and you don't want me
because
to
I have
answer.
another question. I have another
No,
question
but you ask
to
me
you.
a question.
But you can hold on, caller. Can you hold on?
A question. I'm just asking you for
Timothy,
clarification.
But she wants to. But the caller wants to. The guest wants to engage you.
Timothy, I do not want to embarrass the gentleman. So I'm not
Okay,
going to
okay.
let-
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This lady has a habit of just calling the program and coming across as being cantankerous. Let's not get into this. We want.
Is that the person I'm thinking
We
of?
want to have an exchange between the callers and the guest, if that's possible.
You know, I would love, Tim, you don't have to cut them off. I'd love to engage because if that's the
No,
person
because she
I'm
doesn't. She did not want to engage you.
If
Let-
that's the person I'm thinking of, I'm wondering whether she knows somebody who was the surveyor for the land. That's what.
Let's
what I
continue to take
intend
your calls
engage
once
on.
again. You are watching Newsmaker Live, the final broadcast for this year. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hello,
You caller.
Timothy.
Caller, is that you? Is that the first
Yeah,
caller?
I'm still-
Okay.
yeah,
If you're gonna
I'm still
ask,
on the-
hold on,
I'll
please,
get it-
caller,
yeah.
please. If you're gonna ask him a question and then he wants to engage you, let's allow it. Let's have a decent conversation.
Okay, let him engage me. Let him engage me.
Yes, so I'm asking you, which land in Deriso are you speaking about?
Okay, caller. All right. So, Mr. Producer, we'll cut this caller off. Let's see if we can get some other calls. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air. Hello. Hello. Good evening to you, caller.
Hi, good evening, Tim.
Good evening to you, caller.
I'm just calling good night to your guest on your show, Mr. Guy Joseph.
Good night.
Good evening.
I just called to say something, right? So far, I must recommend that the UWP campaign has been excellent. But there is one person campaigning for the UWP that I think Mr. Chasney or the PRO or Mr. Guy Joseph should speak to. It is a BBC host for the host for BBC. He's not doing a good job at all. Because I try to ask myself, what is his motive? What does he hope to accomplish with the way that he's going around trying to campaign for the UWP? Because I believe that what the UWP needs is that the same persons who voted for SLP to be in power, we need these persons to vote for UWP so they can win. So why is the host for BBC is insulting the people so much, and these persons have families who are supporting UWP? So why is he doing that? I think that Tim, your guest on your show, I think he has the authority to speak to this man because he really is going to be the downfall of the UWP. Good night.
All right. Thank you so much for calling. What say you?
Tim, there are many independent persons out there running their talk shows. You know, with social media, everybody is doing a live and doing this and doing that. there's very little control you can have, but I know that the party is putting measures in place, that the party logo and these things cannot be used by any and everybody without the requisite permission from the party.
You got another caller,
But we cannot prevent individuals from expressing
Good evening to you. This is
themselves.
Newsmaker. Have you on the air?
Yeah. I need to talk a little bit to something that Guy just made reference to. Yeah, good evening.
Go ahead, caller. You are on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Guy,
Yeah.
you made a statement out there with regard to Cabot, saying that Cabot was in receivership, so government don't own it.
Not Cabot, not Cabot. I didn't say Cabot. I said the land that Cabot purchased.
Yeah, so government don't. Yeah, I told you the land the land was in receivership, right?
Yeah.
What you are missing is that a government, the people of a country elect a government. The government has say in basically what goes on for the benefit of the people. For instance, you have a grocery chain. Now you have, they've taken dominance and completed all the little areas. The country, the government, for the benefit of competition and dominance, they can come in and restrict that chain of restaurants or grocery stores so that they invite competition, so that the people can get a better and a more honest price on the goods. The government has the responsibility. Anything to do with
Okay, caller. In the interest of can we stick to Cabot and the land?
That's what I told you.
Yeah. What is your point? What is your point? You're saying?
I'm telling him the government of the day has a say in any aspect of development in that country because it can affect the future of that country with regard to development. So the government had a role to come in and see if what the investor is offering is in the benefit of the people and it will not affect future development in that very area for that country. So the government has that right. So when you say because the bank had seized it, that the government have no say, the government have a right to tell the bank if they can sell it to this person or that person. You see that happening all over the United States.
You see,
All
caller.
right, let's hear from Mr. Joseph
Caller.
now.
That is where, and Tim, that's the discussion we were having earlier. The government cannot be a dictator. The government can only go in there and forcefully acquire. The government cannot dictate to a bank that has a loan on a property what to do with the property.
But
The
that's
only
where you're
thing
wrong.
the government can go and
has a right whether the
Okay,
bank
let's allow the caller to conclude his contribution. Caller, complete your contribution, caller, and then for us to move on. What's your final word?
wrong. Tim, you know he is wrong. That the government has a say in the development, whether it's private, whether it's public, looking into...
but caller, both governments have not embraced Cabot, so what's your point?
All right, thank you so much, caller.
Because the UWP agreed that was a worthwhile project to undertake in St. Lucia. We got heavily criticized by the Labour Party. Today, who has embraced Cabot more than the United Workers' Party is the St. Lucia Labour Party. So all they were doing is playing cheap politics with investment in this country.
Yeah,
We're not playing the same game with GPH, you know.
Good evening, Newsmaker on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you, caller.
Tim, I'll permit me to ask Mr. Guy Joseph 3 questions. Right? On a radio talk show some time ago, Mr. Guy Joseph was, I think, on Radio 100, where he said that it was Emma Hippolyte who removed the subsidies on rice, flour, and sugar. And I'm saying I want him to correct that because he knew well enough it was his government who removed it, because the former Prime Minister came on TV and said I wasn't helping anybody. So he has to correct that wrong.
No, caller, you have that all wrong. What the Prime Minister, he did not remove the subsidy. What the Prime Minister said at the time is we have to find a better way of giving to the vulnerable. Because when you subsidize rice, flour, and sugar for the man who is making $10,000 a month, same as the person who is making $10 a month, it does not really help the poor person. So we were saying that there must be more equitable ways of passing on support to the poor and the vulnerable. But saying did not mean that we remove the subsidy. So if we remove the subsidy, why the price of rice, flour, and sugar did not go up under the United Workers' Party government? And the price of bread did not go up.
And if we not remove the subsidy, why would the Labour Party reinstate the subsidy?
I don't understand. You are the one who said we were the ones who removed it. We did not remove the subsidy. The subsidy was removed by the Labour Party.
They cannot be removed by the why would the Labour Party remove the subsidy when they are the one?
You need to ask them that. I cannot answer that.
What's the next point, caller?
The next point is, Mr. Guy Joseph, you made mention to on that same radio program that it was Invest St. Lucia who bought Caribbean Jewels for $144 million.
No, caller.
Let me finish. Let me finish. That hotel was in receivership of $50 million US dollars, right? $50 million US dollars.
No, caller.
No, when I finish.
Hold on, caller. Please, hold on.
You are saying what I said on the show. I did not say. Caller, a person indicated on a previous discussion when Spider was on has been purchased for $134 million. I said to Stanley, you know that is not true. You know nobody paid $134 million. Why didn't you correct the person? That is what I said. Hold on. He said that Caribbean Jewels was purchased for $15 million. In fact, it was even $15 million that it was purchased for. It was being sold. Caribbean Jewels and Shock was purchased for $11 million by Invest St. Lucia. As far as I know now, Invest St. Lucia has sold Shock for $6 million. I understood Caribbean Jewels was being sold for $15 million, which means Invest would be making $10 million US dollars profit from the sale of these two properties. I challenge you to prove that the information I'm giving there is incorrect.
Okay, listen to Mr. Guy Joseph. You know there is documentation to that effect about the receivership with $50 million, and it was bought for that amount. You know,
Who said that?
I didn't say who said that. I'm saying there is documentation. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say anybody.
There's no documentation that can show that.
What's your final caller?
And the third question. I recall I saw two letters from the Taiwanese embassy that stated that they gave you I think the final letter was for a sum of money for CHTTI. That you represented the school or your wife to pick up those two checks. Just
if you go to say
if you're wrong, you're wrong to respond.
Presentation was made on television to CHTTI and the training program was done. It was not made to my wife.
You have another call. Good evening, Newsmaker on the air.
Yes, Tim, good evening.
Hi to you, caller.
Good evening to Mr. Joseph.
Good evening.
Mr. Joseph, as a main opposition in the country, I take it that you would be aware of the number of changes that are taking place as it relates to our laws. And to my mind, some of them border on being dangerous.
Oh yes, the most recent one, caller, the one announced recently, the one that sent to the Bar Association for consultation. Are you making reference to this?
That is certainly one of them.
Well, I'm scared of this, and maybe I hope that as we discuss how much time we have, that I can give my input on this.
Yes. So I want to ask whether you're satisfied as an opposition with the level of work that that is being done from an opposition standpoint to ensure that, notwithstanding the government would be empowered to do certain things, but that they do not, they're not able to get into things that we will not be able to get out of, when it becomes clear that those things are not in the interest of the people.
Caller,
because
while the opposition has been doing a lot of work,
Okay, thank you so much, caller.
We are nowhere close to doing as much as is required. I mean, this most recent one, we've not even had the opportunity to comment on it. And Tim, this is very concerning. What is happening legally and what the Bar Association is so silent about, and everybody else. We have to pay attention to the threat of democracy and justice in this country.
You have another call. Good evening, Newsmaker.
Tim.
Good evening to you, caller.
Tim.
Who is this?
Yeah, you shouldn't be cutting off.
No, caller. No. We have to move on, caller. We have to take as many calls as possible. My apologies, but we have to take as many calls as possible, caller. Good evening, Newsmaker. Here. Hello.
Hello. Good night.
Good evening to you, caller.
Yes. I would like to. Good night, Mr. Joseph.
Good night.
Good night.
Yes, good evening to you, sir.
Yes. I think Mr. Joseph raised some serious issues, and my biggest concern is with GPH. I'm a taxi driver, and I know nothing much has been said. And from reading documentation, it looked like that at one time they said taxi drivers, people claim that the former Prime Minister said that taxi drivers would have to work for EC dollars and not for US dollars. But it seems it's a different time zone now, because here you see the same people who said the former Prime Minister said so, they are the one going into that direction with us, because we operate at Point Seraphine and Laplace Carénage. And there's nothing that we know that's going to happen to taxi drivers. We are about 200 members at Point Seraphine, and our livelihood is at stake. And no one is saying anything to us, or the vendors, or even the shops. Because if you go online and you read everything about GPH, they run the shops, they run the taxis, they do everything.
Well, caller, just allow me to come in there. In fact, one of the things I highlighted on another show is that between 25 and 30% of the revenue of GPH is not from their core business of operating cruise ports, from the other services like taxis, restaurants, and all of that. So I don't know whether they make this money by charging a fee for the persons operating there. It's not clear to us, and that's what I'm saying, that St. Lucia needs to know the implications of that decision, because once the deal is finalized and this work has started, the process of reversing that is going to be very costly to St. Lucia. And that's why we are appealing to all St. Lucians, not just those who are going to be affected, but every St. Lucian, to pay serious attention to what we are saying. This is not just political talk.
Comment from you.
Yeah, because what I'm saying, that will have a domino effect. Because at the end of the day, and I strongly believe that GPH will go all out, because I just read recently that GPH stock has gone down by 7%. Now, if your stock is going by 7%, that means you are in some financial financial problem. So they will look to reap every cent they can from us. And they are bringing in nothing. And the authorities are saying nothing, and people believe it's all nice and gloomy. And I'm seeing there's 200 men multiplied by 5. You watch, that's about 1,000 households alone by taxi drivers will be affected. Forget the vendors, the people who work on commission. How would they survive on those things? The boat people, the Sufre, water-based taxi. It's a domino effect. You're watching about, I would say, 1/3 of the population getting directly affected by that agreement with GPH, you know.
Okay, caller.
And we are not hearing anything from the authorities. The Minister of Tourism is saying nothing. They made a mess with the taxi plates. If you watch, they issued so many plates where there isn't enough work on the island. And a cruise ship, today you saw free cruise ship Point Seraphine. I could tell you, you do not even have 30 men who work today on the peg ship. That's to show you. The boats come, the numbers are not there. Don't let the free ships in the harbor fool us, because the revenue stream is no longer there. It's not coming. The ships are not coming full. The capacity is on the schedule, but the numbers actually is not what's there. And it's hard. It is a fighting and a damning situation for us in St. Lucia.
Okay, thank you so much for calling, sir. But we don't know that GPH is any kind of financial problems. Let me say this because we don't have the evidence to prove
Well, I
that.
can tell you that because they are publicly traded company, the financials have shown that for the last 2 years that their share prices have gone down.
You have a call.
On both.
Let's make you on the air.
Good evening, Tim. Good evening.
Good evening to you, caller.
Good evening.
Right. My problem with the Cabot situation is that the rules of the NIC, the first thing, the rules and procedures of the NIC were broken by the government, meaning that the board should not have given a loan to Cabot.
Caller, just pause. You making a very, you say the rules of the NIC was broken by the government. How could the rules of the NIC be broken by the government?
Well, let me explain.
Uh-huh.
The NIC, if you know the regulations, is very specific as to who loans are granted to. Yes, the NIC can do loans. I'm not saying no. But NIC does not have the capacity or the wherewithal to do individual loans. So the loans that the NIC have done in the past is to the government, to WASCO, to Lucilec, SLASPA. Okay?
So caller, you are saying to me that the board of the NIC, because, hold on, it is not the government. The government may have, the government may have 1 or 2 members on the board. That's why if you hear me speaking about the Bank of St. Lucia, you would hear me making reference to the board of the bank. It is the board that ultimately is responsible for management for the decisions. The government can make a suggestion. There's nothing that forces any board that is appointed to go by the dictates of a government. So if you want to say the NIC board broke the rules, that's your right to say so. To say the government made the board break the rules, I disagree with you on that.
Well, the Prime Minister himself, the former Prime Minister, Mr. Shafmi, was the one who said on a program, right?
The intro.
Listen to what he said. He said that the NIC was in the process of purchasing the land, but they allowed Cabot to buy the land. Okay?
Caller.
No, I'm telling you.
No, don't say it, because you are saying something. I'm telling you what the minister said was that when he spoke to about people, he introduced them to the NIC, but because he introduced them as a potential investor to the NIC, so you're concerned about that. I'm concerned that the NIC invested heavily in Blue Coral, and been losing money on Blue.
No, we're dealing with one issue, the Cabot. Why are you going elsewhere?
No, if you concern about the NIC, it's right, you know, to be concerned. This to start building a building in Viewfort. We found the land even being transferred to the government. We found the land, we found requisite approvals. That's the administrative building in Viewfort.
That's not true, Mr. Joseph. The approvals were there, I was on the board, so don't try that.
So you...
I was on the NIC board, I saw the approvals. So do not...
Hold on, caller. I am telling you as a matter of...
Do not mislead.
This land was never tried.
Yeah, but deal with one issue and close it?
No, we're dealing with issues of NIC, not 3 or 4. I'll take you on this. You will give you, to understand what you are telling me. NIC gave money for a program and was never transferred to the government. The land is still in the name of Invest St. Lucia.
No, I have no problem. No. What I'm saying to you, that was a minor matter. That was
a minor matter.
Part of government. So you all use that. No. Your prime minister used that as an excuse not to do the administrative building, and use that when it was all intergovernmental. Okay? So don't come with this. Let me tell you something.
Caller, no, is when people quality will sign the board of the NIC and not in of the NIC, it's not of the government giving a loan to build on it. So in father's name, the will give me a loan to build on my grandfather's land.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, Tim, these people must know. So what is in father's name? I will go to the will give me a, because will inherit. No, things don't work like that, Tim.
Good evening, newsmaker.
Good night, Tim. Good night, Mr. Joseph.
Good evening to you, caller.
Mr. Joseph, I just want to direct that question to you. I'm wondering, I'm kind of curious. I don't know if I'll be offline in asking this, but I'm hearing something like Miss Sarah Flood mentioned on the platform after the match, saying that there is a possibility they will be closing down Turning Point. Can you give me some clearance on that, please?
I think Tim had run something, and I heard the gentleman who was talking about that. We've heard that, but no, Tim, you'd be in a better position.
The CEO of Millennium Heights complex did say this afternoon on Your Spin that what they'll be doing is transferring certain units, okay, that will be located at the Turning Point. But Turning Point, in terms of its services, will not be discontinued, will be relocated to some other area. And that is because there are renovation works taking place.
But have they said where it is going to?
They have not said exactly, but they have said that they have a contractor in place to work on those projects to address issues relating to
that might be a knee-jerk reaction to the public.
For at least 3 months or so. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if we have another call. Good evening, Newsmaker on the air.
Hi, Tim, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. I want to address the comments that was made by Alexander a short while ago, to the extent that the previous board broke certain rules in granting the...
Is that Mr. Frank Myers?
Yes,
and you were part, you think you were part of the NIC board?
Yes, I was
okay.
the chair of the NIC board.
Yeah, go ahead.
And he was suggesting that we broke rules. I don't know which rules he's talking about when the loan was given to Cabot. We acted in accordance with the investment policy, and if he was a member of the board, he should know that. We were perfectly entitled to do what we did under the investment policy. There are certain things that we could not do, and one of the things I could give an example, whilst we will look at any project that comes to us from even through government, for example, if you were to get a project in agriculture, as much as some people may think that we should go for it, but simply because of the risk involved, it's unlikely the NIC would lend project into an agricultural project. And under the rules of the investment policy, the NIC is almost duty bound to support the policies of the government of the day, provided that there is no risk to the NIC, to the fund. And this is exactly the way we saw it. This thing was, we took almost over a year to get to this project. We analyzed it properly, and we saw that it was something that would be beneficial to St. Lucia in the long run. Principally, it would diversify our touristic opportunities and give us a foothold into a market which I think has always been spoken about for years, i.e. the upper end of the market, because when you go down market in tourism, the country slowly just disintegrates. Subsequent events have proved that the decisions we've taken was the right one, despite all the fear-mongering that went on with the Labour Party suggesting to people that the fund was being threatened by the loan that was granted. I remember one afternoon, an old lady was almost crying on your program, I think it was, wondering about whether her money was lost, etc., and so on. All we had here was vicious politics trying to stop what was a valid project to sort of put pressure on the government of the day. But for Alexander to come there and speak about us breaking the rules, it is absolute rubbish. I hate using that word about anything people say publicly, but it's absolute nonsense, and he knows that. If he doesn't know it, it means he sat on the board of the NIC without even understanding what he was working on and what he could do and what he couldn't do. Subsequent events have proved that that project is going to be one of the most beneficial projects to St. Lucia. And in fact, to prove the point, the current government has embraced that project. So I think Alexander needs to stop this foolishness and just move on. This has been litigated several times over. I am tired of talking about this, and we really have to put that to rest. St. Lucia will benefit from that. End of story. We got to move on to the next thing. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that clarification, because I know the board of the NIC would not have made, but you see, I could not substantiate it, but I'm happy the deputy chair of the board was able to call and clarify. And team, that is what is happening to us in St. Lucia. For political reasons, people will come and give all kinds of false information, something that can so easily be proven that what the caller was saying was wrong. And I'm happy Mr. Myers was able to call in and clarify that. I know that the board and the quality of the persons who was on the board would never put their reputation at risk, because they were not political hacks. These were professionals. They may have a bias towards a political party, but they were professionals in what they do. I don't think I can say the same for the others, because when a gentleman can tell me, well, that's a minor matter, that the land is not in your name. You remember another man came on your, was it on your program, and he said, well, you can use somebody else's paper and get the concession. People do that all the time. A lawyer who is now in a prominent position in the present government. That's what the Labour Party does. That's their MO. That's how they operate, team.
Final comments from you, Mr. Joseph.
Tim, I want to thank you for having me here. I want to take the opportunity to wish the staff at DBS all the best for the holiday season, the rest of St. Lucia, the diaspora, and everyone. Tim, I'm very concerned about what is happening with Venezuela. And I know that we are keeping close eyes on it. And let me tell you, apart from the...
Venezuela and Guyana.
And Guyana. Because, I mean, what I heard today is of major concern, and I'm appealing to the government of today. And I think that the United Work, I don't know if you all got the statement from the party for the news, but hopefully by tomorrow you'd get it. But we are calling on the Labour Party government to make a declaration as to where St. Lucia is, what are the expectations. We cannot just hide under the CARICOM arrangement that is there, because I believe that this has serious implications. Tim, we've had shortages of rice, flour, and sugar in this country. And we know how much we depend on getting some of these supplies from Guyana. Can you imagine if things were to escalate, what is likely to happen? So I believe that the government needs to help allay the fears of the people of St. Lucia by coming forward and making a definitive statement and reassuring the people of St. Lucia as to measures that the government is taking to address the present situation, and behind the scenes whatever they can do to mitigate against the further impact. So that is looming over us going into the holiday season, and I know a lot of our Guyanese people who are in St. Lucia would be very concerned about their family and the state of things, but we want to let them know that we are very concerned also, because we've always had a good relationship with Guyana, and as a CARICOM member we are very concerned, and we are hoping that the government will step forward and allay the fears of the people of St. Lucia. Overall, team, I really thank you for having me here on your show tonight. You didn't bump me off as I was done on another program this morning. But I really want to just wish all St. Lucians all the best, the people of Castries Southeast, the people in the diaspora, and everywhere else. On behalf of myself and my family, I wish all of us in St. Lucia all the best for the Christmas season and a bright and prosperous 2024.
Thank you so much for being my guest during this segment on Newsmaker Live, and all the best to you and your family as well.
Thank you, team.
And stay with us, because when we come back, we'll be promoting an event that is coming up on December the 12th. It's called Calypso Gold. You are watching Newsmaker Live. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us during this final segment of Newsmaker Live. I have a guest. His name is Jamal Cyril of Ecstatic Events. He's here to promote Calypso Gold. And the show came off last year. What was it like last year?
Last year was success, I would say, for it being the first time that we tried to do a show for that genre, the more mature crowd. It was a successful show. Lots of people came out. The artists themselves enjoyed. So, of course, we made it a staple during the December month to continue doing it until we get that, to reach to that grand stage, that grand show that we want to put on.
It always marvels me that you got to organize the show and host it on December the 12th, and no one thought about having an event on the eve of National Day.
Well, you could just say I'm lucky, because I guess a lot of people think of everything that's happening around the December month because you have the staff parties, you have all of these things going on, and of course the National Day, normal Festival of Lights, which also go on. So I guess it was just a chance we took to bring something into the December month where we think that it could add value. And if you could see with the artists that we have, we always try to incorporate the parang, because Christmas, we know parang for Christmas, and so we just try and incorporate it, and there's no other time to do it than December.
And before we talk about the overseas artists, let's talk about the St. Lucian performers. I think too often, you know, the St. Lucian performers, we see them as, we use the term local, as if it's something that is not good. But I think we need to get away from this. You know, so our St. Lucian artists, T.C. Brown, Black Eye, and Yati, and also Her Black. How did you convince Black Eye to participate? Because while I think I've not seen Black Eye perform publicly.
Well, to be quite honest, I grew up listening to Black Eye because I came from the same area with Black Eye, and Black Eye was actually supposed to be on our lineup from last year. Okay. But what we try to do is every year we try to change up the local I don't want to see, like you say, local. We try to change up our Calypsonian lineup, which we try to always give a different artist every year. So last year, you see, we had Invader, The Mighty Pep, and Her Black. But this year, we just incorporated 2 other artists. And of course, Her Black being a sensation this year, we had to bring him back because he's probably the people's favorite as well. But Black Eye, it was, to me, it's my favorite, and I believe it could be the fans' favorite because, like you say, you haven't heard him in a long time. So basically, that's the aim and the goal of Calypso Gold, is to bring back golden music, to bring back music that you haven't heard in a long time. So we did convince him to come back.
So the St. Lucian performers are T.C. Brown, Black Eye, and Yati, and Her Black. Okay, let's talk about the artists coming from overseas: Crazy, Super Blue, and David Rudder. This is an impressive group of individuals who perform on one stage. It is,
and I could say it's even beyond my pay grade or my age grade, because they're way older than me, and to have all of these guys on the same stage, because the thing about it is, like, Calypso is great music. Calypso is the start of what Carnival is, and to put all of these great Calypsonians on one stage in St. Lucia is probably one of the greatest shows that we could ever see. And knowing in the times that we live in, when everybody passing away and stuff like that, we think that it's a great avenue for people to come and see some of these legendary regional artists. Well, regional, and when I say regional, I don't want to say just Trinidad, but even St. Lucia, because we highlight our artists as great artists as well. So it's one night where you could get an opportunity to see all of these heavy hitters, these legendary artists, because you never know exactly what would happen next.
But considering those individuals who perform on so many events, not only regionally but internationally, I imagine that Crazy would be in demand. In Trinidad and elsewhere,
yes, during
the festive season. How do you convince Crazy to perform on the 12th of December?
You see, it's not. There is no convincing. St. Lucia is a place that sells itself, and these guys, I could tell you, they love St. Lucia. They love to perform in St. Lucia, and Crazy haven't been there for years. David Rudder haven't been there since what, 2009, I believe it was. That was his last performance here. So it was basically a no-brainer to get these guys to come down here. They were excited because, again, St. Lucia sells itself.
So you're talking about, again, David Rudder, Crazy, Super Blue, alongside our St. Lucian performers, T.C. Brown, Black Eye, and Yati, and Her Black. How's the response been so far in terms of ticket sales?
So far, it's been great. we originally advertised our VIP tickets for $350, but we had a promotion during our Black Friday, which is the day that everything goes on sale, and we dropped our ticket to $280. And then the response that we got from that, and knowing that economical times we're in right now, and knowing that it's Christmas, you want to pull people in. So we left our ticket price at $280. But what we did is that we reduced the ticket price, but we didn't reduce the VIP experience that we have. So the VIP experience is still going to be a $350 experience, but it's just the ticket price is $280 right now.
What is that experience? What will it be like?
The VIP right now is called the KFC Gold Pass, which is something that don't normally happen. So in that VIP, you get your lounge, you get your buffet food, because we also incorporated some different categories of food, not just KFC, but you have the buffet, you have the KFC snacket, you also have doubles and stuff like that with a little Trini flavor in there. So we did a little tweak into what it was last year. So we're giving people a good experience. You still have the parking, you have a separate VIP entrance, you have separate parking. So VIP is not just VIP, that's why we call it KFC Gold Pass. It's a whole experience by itself.
Okay. How are preparations going for the event? And what are you considering? What are you taking into consideration and prioritizing?
One of the things that we took into consideration this year was our handicap entrance. Because last year, coming out of Pigeon Island, I saw it for my own self. I saw some people going up, pushing up elderly people in a wheelchair, and it came to my attention that these people want to attend the show. But you have to, there's not much provisions for handicapped people who want to attend the show. So what we did this year is that we made a separate entrance for the handicapped people. So when you come into your handicap, you're basically in the show. So we took that into consideration, because handicap is not just wheelchair, but there are people who walking stick and everything, that more mature crowd. So we want to cater for everybody, because we don't want people to think that these events are just for people that could move. Because you could be at home and you want to enjoy the experience too. So we did that, where we created a separate entrance for the handicap. And that's one of the things that I really wanted to focus on this year.
Okay. What about security, especially for vehicles?
Again, with the security idea was one that we took strongly again into consideration, because of some of the little things that we heard about events that happen in the area and stuff like that. So again, working with the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is always easy, and we never had any issues with them. We didn't have any issues last year. I don't think that we're going to have any issues this year, because the security plan was put in place way in advance. So that's something I think that people should not even be concerned about. We have that down pat.
So the time and the venue for the event?
The time is, the gates open at 6 o'clock. So basically when your gates open, you could come inside, still enjoy the environment between 6 and 7, because we know that's a normal working day as well. So you could come inside, enjoy the environment. We're going to have some pan music as well inside of there, because again, it's pre-National Day, so we have to keep that national feeling in play. Show time is 8 o'clock, so you have that little time where you could get there from work and stuff like that. The venue, of course, is Darren Sammy National Cricket Grounds, which is, I must say, bigger shout outs to Sports Inc. for allowing us to come back there, because you know there was that situation where they were closing down, and then so shout out to Sports Inc. for making us come back there. So it's Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds.
Final comments?
I just want to say thanks to our sponsors, KFC, Digicel, Travel TLC, sorry. Thanks to our sponsors for coming on board, DBS. Again, Tim, thanks for, this is the second year that we're doing this, so I must say thank to you for always making me come on the show. I know I feel a little pressure when I come in on that show, because the people who sit down there before me. Yeah, so thanks for that. And again, looking forward to seeing everybody on the 12th of December at Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds.
All right, thank you so much, Jamal Cyril of Ecstatic Events, promoting Calypso Gold, scheduled for this Tuesday, December the 12th, at this Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. Thank you so much for being my guest in this segment.
All right, thank you so much.
And a special thank you to you for supporting Newsmaker Live during the course of this year by watching on DBS television and also on Facebook. Your comments, your calls, the sponsorship. We would like to thank everyone. On behalf of the management and staff of DBS television, we wish you a Merry Christmas, and certainly have yourself an enjoyable festive season. Be safe, and God willing, I'll be back in the new year with another season of Newsmaker Live. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
Oh, give me chance. You don't feel young yet, but you wait. Wait till I get this music on.
High out of my mind, looseness in my waist, not to answer shame. Washing up my spine, making up my face, not to answer shame. They don't know me already. When it comes to a party, I just wine and go down and wine and go down and wine and go down. Full stop.
And as a broadcast, my name is Timothy Paulion saying good night and see you next time.
I, Philip Joseph here. I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
To government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body of my party.
We have to take pride on